Welcome to Recap Kun. In the beginning, we witness some strange particles dropping down on the earth from the sky. While many are enjoying the concert, a strange worm emerges from the particle and begins to descend rapidly. It finds a host and enters the host's body through the ear. Suddenly, he starts experiencing symptoms. He gets up and leaves the room, but his girlfriend stops him. He turns to face her, turning his head into a deadly pair of tentacles, and the parasite goes on a killing rampage as everyone gets scared and starts running. Later, while working at the convenience store, Soo-in, our main protagonist, runs into a strange customer who becomes irate with her for asking to see the price tag. While she was heading back home on her motorcycle, the guy starts following her in his car and hits her. He comes out with a knife in his hand and stabs her multiple times because she argued with him. She hits him and tries to get away, which infuriates the man. He tries to find her, but right then another parasite drops near Soo-in, and the guy gets killed in an instant. Subsequently, a passerby informs the authorities of the incident. When the police hear about this, they are taken aback by the fact that the suspect, who had followed the victim with the intent to murder, died inexplicably. The girl managed to survive despite being stabbed multiple times. When the senior police officer Mr. Chul sees her, they both recognize one another. She tells Mr. Chul that the guy repeatedly stabbed her with a knife after a small argument, but she gets shocked to learn she no longer has any wounds, just a few old-looking scars. On her way home, she was riding the bus when all of a sudden, an unfamiliar man got on and started staring at her. She quickly exits the bus out of fear, but the man continues to stare at her in a strange manner. Meanwhile, a young woman is bringing a man to her place for some fun. The man is excited about this and enters the isolated building without any worries. However, he does discover strange objects inside. Suddenly, other people barge into the room and begin speaking strangely, claiming that the man is intoxicated and that they must wait before they do anything. He gets worried, and as he starts calling someone, then the woman shows her real face to him. However, someone throws a tear gas bomb inside. The guy runs for his life, the soldiers intervene and shoot the woman, and get rid of other creatures. Nevertheless, one of them manages to get out of the building, but not before he hears an odd noise in his head and investigates to discover that one of them is imprisoned inside the van. Suddenly, a woman appears and begins shooting at the creature. Nonetheless, he once again manages to run away. Choi is the head of a specialized team that was created to get rid of the parasites. Upon entering to explore the place, she discovers an odd chamber adorned with human body parts and an odd symbol. Concurrently, Kyung, a woman who appears to be affiliated with the parasite organization, learns of Soo-in's whereabouts and sets out to recruit her while her brother Kang spies on her. After exiting the bus, Soo-in makes her way to her house. However, as soon as the man from earlier approaches her, she gets a bad feeling. Terrified, she tries to call Mr. Chul, but he charges at her, forcing her to flee for her life. Nevertheless, Kyung obstructs her path as well, and Kang also gets there. Soo-in tries to flee but gets confused when Kyung compliments her acting skills for flawlessly posing as a human despite being one of them. They attempt to hurt her in order to prove she is one of them, and she retaliates using her creature powers, proving she is one of their kind. The man offers her an invitation to join their organization, and both of them swiftly leave from there. Moreover, Soo-in notices Kang's quick attempt to flee. She shoves him away and threatens to kill him unless he does something for her, to which he complies. The real Soo-in is then shown waking up. She discovers a man sitting in front of her, who bursts into laughter as he informs her about the parasite that resides within her body and has turned her into a mutant in the process. All of this perplexes Soo-in, so Kang gives her their Sage and Church organizational template and quickly departs. When she gets back home, she wonders if there is truly someone residing in her body, which she writes down as a question. Then she sleeps. However, after waking up, she finds that someone has answered her question. The creature asks her to accept what Kang said and requests that she write down all of her inquiries so that she can provide a detailed explanation. And when she awakens the following morning, she discovers that every query she had was addressed by the parasite. When Mr. Chul visits the police headquarters in the interim, he is taken aback by the increased security provided by a special task force, which acts as though a pandemic is underway. He enters the building without much delay, and we see Choi again. This time, she introduces herself as the captain of the Parasite Special Task Force and starts educating the group about the parasite by playing video from the concert where a man brutally killed dozens of people. However, he was captured by them. Although these parasitic worms have been discovered all over the world, It is still unclear where they came from. Her research over the previous 3 months has led her to believe that these odd creatures have made the decision to take over human society. Meanwhile, Suin is reading the creature's confession. It tells her that although the creature initially attempted to take control of her body, she had to heal herself first because of her deadly wounds, which prevented the creature from fully taking control of her brain. This means that it can only control her body for 15 minutes a day on average. When asked about a solution, Choi says that since the parasite requires a host to survive, they must destroy the human body in order to eradicate them. There are 2 ways to identify them. The first is to use an X-ray machine, which can be bulky to transport. The second is to remove a hair strand. The hair will wither away without its host. She then introduces her own husband as a test subject, who expedited their investigation in comparison to other nations. They are using a special kind of helmet that uses a chemical to harm the parasite if it tries to break free. Additionally, she explains that since parasites are able to sense other living things, she is keeping him alive in order to use him as a radar to allocate the other parasites. Suin is further informed by the creature, who also cautions her against coming into contact with other parasites and not disclosing that she is a mutant. Upon opening her phone, she discovers a video featuring the parasite to show her what she looks like after the transformation. Subsequently, while working at the supermarket, she meets Mr. Chul, who requests a brief conversation with her. Now that Mr. Chul is beginning to suspect her of being one of the creatures, he tries not to be suspicious and succeeds in obtaining a strand of her hair, but it exhibits no symptoms. Later that night she once again meets with Kyung. They threaten her to get inside the car to meet with their head. As she arrives at the scene where Kong is also present, sees her. When he investigates further, he discovers a large number of dead bodies. Regretfully, one of the parasites enters the room and starts to look around. Suin then enters another room where many of the other parasites have congregated, and the pastor starts to tell them about a secret special force that has been pursuing them. Concurrently, Kong discovers his younger sister's corpse, which infuriates him. Enraged, he attacks the creature, frightening others, but he soon realizes he cannot kill it and flees the scene. The pastor gives them the order to use their abilities to kill the intruder, and they all leave. However, the pastor becomes suspicious of Suin because of her awkwardness. When Kong tries to flee, the gang that has been hunting him shows up. He tries to warn them about the monsters, but they don't listen, and the monsters arrive. Having no other option, the monsters start killing each of them. Kong quickly makes his way out of there, but he runs into Suin. The 2 of them recognize each other and start running away together. To look for the escapee, the old man uses his flying technique to find him. At the gas station, Kong finds his friend waiting for him, and they make a swift getaway. However, Kong learns that it was his friend who informed his enemies about his location, and he also tries to kill him. As soon as the flying creature discovers them, it tries to kill them, but Suin's parasite appears and engages in combat with it. Without warning, Kong makes a sharp turn to the left, causing Suin to tumble out of the car and them to collide with the tree crest. Suin immediately gets up to engage the flying foe in combat. After realizing that she has merged with a human and could pose a threat to them, the flying creature tries to inform the pastor, but Suin stops him and instantly ends his life. In the meantime, Suin's case file reveals to Choi that she is a parasite as well. We see Choi and her husband in a flashback scene from episode 3, where they are outside a supermarket. While she returns to get something she forgot, the husband comes into contact with a parasite larva, which then takes over his body. On her way back, she notices that many people are fleeing from her husband. Alarmed, she approaches him to see how he is doing, only to be terrified as he attacks her, severing her ear off. Even though she escapes, she does not stop there. She grabs a bottle of chemical and lures him away. When he follows, she throws the bottle over him and flees the room, locking him inside while the chemical begins to hurt badly. In the next scene, we see Kong and Suin hiding in an inn. He intends to report the incident to the police. Suin advises getting in touch with Mr. Chul since she can trust him. They go to a public phone booth and call Mr. Chul, tell him about the Seijin Church and the monsters there, without giving their names, and hang up. When Mr. Chul starts looking for the location on the maps, he discovers that it is in the middle of the mountains. They intend to conduct additional investigation, but first he meets with Choi and notifies special task forces. She initially inquires about Suin and learns that he has already paid her a visit and examined her hair, and then tells her about the Seijin Church in the mountains. They do not waste any time getting there. Upon searching the area with a drone, they begin to charge towards it. As they advance further, they discover a mass of corpses inside the warehouse. The monsters appear to have already left, but still, Mr. Chul finds a keychain that he had recently given to Suin. And when Choi saw him stuffing something into his pocket, she questions him, but he denies finding anything significant. According to the senior member of the forensics team, it will take a few more days to identify the bodies. Furthermore, he reports that a 42-year-old man by the name of Hyukju owns the church. Both he and his spouse were reported missing by his family. Choi aims at finding the pastor first to further investigate the case and gives the lead to police officer Won-suk. He quickly heads to a different location where he unexpectedly meets with the church pastor and other monster. However, it gets revealed that he was the one who pre-informed them about the police raid and is working with them. In addition, he informs them that the location was reported by an unidentified man, whom Kyung believes to be her brother. The pastor finds out that the flying monster that chased him the previous evening was slain by another monster that had betrayed them. He then hands over a specially crafted dagger to him, ordering him to kill the hunting dog, Choi's husband, so that they won't be able to track them anymore. In the meantime, Suin receives a call from Mr. Chul, asking to meet with him. Kang suspects that Mr. Chul is aware of her being one of the monsters and may end up backstabbing them. But since Suin trusts Mr. Chul, Kang tells her to call him somewhere private. Unfortunately, Choi notices him hurrying off and instructs her team to locate Mr. Chul in real time. Once at the deserted children's park, the two of them meet Mr. Chul, who initially asks for a keychain before showing it to her, questioning why she went to this ancient church. As Choi arrives near the location, her husband alerts her to the presence of another monster. Suin is also able to sense it and tries to leave, which causes them to struggle. But when Choi arrives with a shotgun, Kang pushes them and runs away with Suin and hides inside a spooky house. In the meantime, the Special Task Force also arrived at the scene along with Officer Won-suk. As Choi searches for them, Suin advises him to flee while she distracts her and makes a quick move. During this time, Won-suk grabs the dagger and proceeds to kill the captured parasite. Subsequently, Suin attempts to flee from Choi but is apprehended by the task force. As Kang goes to steal a car for their escape, he sees Won-suk killing the parasite that was captured. Won-suk swiftly departs the area before others show up. Choi uncovers his face and finds her husband dead. She's taken aback by this, however, she returns to Suin as Mr. Chul is trying to save her. She then puts the safety helmet on Suin and they take her with them. The task force team informs the higher-ups about the current situation and the recently discovered parasite Suin. Mr. Chul is adamant that she is not a parasite because she shows no symptoms of one. However, Choi is certain of Suin because she has seen her parasite form. However, the higher authorities order them to turn over Suin to them for a more in-depth examination and decide to make the news public in an effort to encourage caution. Mr. Chul is depressed because he knows that Suin may not survive the crazy experiments they intend to conduct on her body, putting her life in danger. Meanwhile, Suin is currently in a state of coma. However, her inner paranoia is still present. Her parasite communicates with Suin to warn her of the danger outside. During this, Kang is trying to run away from the city. However, Mr. Chul manages to find him. He arrests him, but Kang insists on going to some other police station since there's a monster disguised as a police officer at the main police station. Kang informs him that his friend Won-suk is the one who killed Choi's husband. Meanwhile, Won-suk informs the pastor that Suin is being transferred to another department for further investigation. After learning what transpired between Kang and Suin and how she became a mutant, Mr. Chul decides to rescue her before she goes to the military headquarters for the investigation. He asks Kang to help out, giving him two choices of either running away or helping the person who saved him. Initially, he intends to depart right away, but Mr. Chul is able to persuade him to return and save Suin instead. Following Mr. Chul's instructions, Kang sneaks into the police headquarters, disguises himself as a member of the Special Task Force, and goes to free Suin from the special container. Unfortunately, Choi shows up right away, grabs the helmet's remote control, and tells Kang to enter the container with Suin for added safety. They quickly move ahead. However, due to heavy traffic, they were forced to stop as they were traveling, so Choi sent two of her officers ahead to check. They find multiple cars colliding up ahead, and one of the parasites attacks them. The officers move forward to defend themselves, telling the driver to return immediately. Choi also moves ahead. Subsequently, a horde of parasites show up to take Suin away from them. One of them hits the truck with a car, and then kills the driver. Choi managed to kill the parasite, but she had to jump away in order to save herself. Meanwhile, Kang tries to wake up Suin, but upon failure, he goes out of the container, finds Choi uncautious and takes the remote control, and tries to free Suin from the helmet. Upon several attempts, he is able to unlock the helmet, and they quickly leave the container. However, as they are leaving, Won-suk tries to kill them and then begins to follow them along with Mr. Chul. However, during their chase, Won-suk takes a left turn unexpectedly, and Suin gets scared as she senses the presence of a parasite. She quickly runs to save Mr. Chul. When Won-suk pulls the car over in a remote area, he tries to talk Mr. Chul into joining the Sejin church. But just as Mr. Chul pulls out his gun, the pastor arrives. He chops off Mr. Chul's head before Suin can intervene and takes control of his body. As they are battling each other, Kang arrives there, and Suin manages to escape unharmed. The pastor, posing as Officer Chul, returns to police headquarters. The higher-ups are not happy about the setback and put pressure on Choi to end the parasite organization in 3 days, before the festival. Kang takes Suin to one of his friend's house for them to rest. He has decided to leave the city and lie low. However, Suin wants to help Choi and inform the cops, but Kang tries to convince her that it's a bad idea. But later, Suin runs away from him, calls Choi to meet with her, and when they meet each other, she tries to convince Choi that both Mr. Chul and Won-suk are monsters. However, she refuses to believe her and tries to capture her instead. Suin quickly runs away from there and finds Kang ahead in a car. After that, the parasite requests Kang to keep Suin away from danger since she is exhausted, and won't be able to take over Suin's body for the next 3 hours. Unfortunately, Kyung arrives at Kang's friend's house, and Kang receives a call. Kyung threatens him to bring Suin to her in exchange for his friend's life. Since they have no choice, Suin returns to the apartment thinking she could persuade her, but Kyung decides to kill her. Kang suddenly comes and attacks Kyung. After that, his friend stops Kyung as both of them leave the place. To further his personal objectives, Pastor tells Choi about a hidden parasite hideout in the interim. They are on their way to the address that Pastor and Won-suk gave them when Choi unexpectedly gets a call from Kang. He and Suin try to warn her not to fall for their trick since Won-suk and Mr. Chul are both monsters, but she does not listen to them and continues on. Unexpectedly, though, they discover a large number of monsters at the mentioned location, and we see Kyung watching Pastor disguised as Chul killing his own people. Amidst all of this, Choi remains on the phone with Kang and Suin, reaffirming that Chul and Won-suk were both correct. Although Kang and Suin are unable to comprehend their plan, they do realize that the pastor is attempting to assume the mayor's body when they find out that a festival will soon be held in the mayor's presence. Subsequently, the pastor announces to the populace that nearly every monster in the city has been vanquished, with only Suin and Kyung remaining on the loose. Since he had previously made an effort to shield Suin, Choi has grown suspicious of him because he is now openly claiming her to be a threat to everyone. When she questions him the same, he claims that he's only doing what's best for the public and leaves. Kyung calls Kang in the meantime, asking to meet so they can work together to create an alliance against the pastor. They meet with each other at the park where she manages to convince them to work together since their first goal is to get rid of the pastor. Afterwards, as Choi is heading to another city away from the festival, she receives a call from Suin's parasite. She informs her that Won-suk is actually a human, and he's just helping the pastor to take over the body of the city's mayor in order to fulfill their agendas. At the festival, Kang is looking for Mr. Chul. As Pastor charges at the mayor in an attempt to start a brawl, Won-suk strikes him while feigning combat, hides Pastors in his coat, and takes the mayor away from the crowd. When Choi and the other soldiers arrive, she recognizes Suin and attempts to apprehend her, but Suin is able to persuade her not to go after her, and quickly departs. Won-suk releases the head of the pastor, and as it goes to take over the mayor's head, Kyung stops him, pushes Kang and mayor away for them to flee. However, the pastor manages to kill Kyung and then he takes over Won-suk's body to stay alive. He then moves forward to look for the mayor to take over his body. Both Kang and the mayor try to hide from him, but he managed to allocate them, but Kang uses the fireworks to attack him and get away. Nonetheless, as he was about to harm them, Suin arrives there to save them, and they begin fighting with each other as Kang tries to get away with Mayor. However, he goes back inside to look for Suin. Meanwhile, Suin goes away from the pastor and gets inside a museum hall. The pastor arrives there. At first, he tries to convince her to join hands with him in order to take over the human organization. Then Choi also shows up there with a shotgun pointed towards Suin, and the pastor tries to convince her to shoot Suin. However, as he was about to harm Choi, Suin tries to save her and Choi sees the back of his head, and shoots him instead of Suin. And in this way they get rid of the pastor. Kang quickly arrives there while crying. Suin's parasite asks Choi to take care of Suin since she's not a threat to anyone and she truly wants to live among people instead of running away, and suddenly collapses. Kang and other soldiers arrive there. However, Choi informs them to admit her to the hospital since she's a normal human, not a parasite. After some time, as she was working at the supermarket, Kang comes to see her. He informs her that he recently started working for Choi as a part of her special force unit, and give her a letter he received from the parasite within her. She tells Suin that she's glad to find a wonderful human partner like her. Kang also informs her that Choi also would like to have her join the team if she wants, and asks her to give her a call back. If you want me to recap your favorite shows, let me know in the comments, and do not forget to like and subscribe.